Oh, 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 yeah. Hi guys, hello, hi, I'm back. Oh bruh. Has not even a minute into this episode and I'm already like exploding your eardrums. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode to the Yappy Era podcast. Another video on this channel. I don't know. I don't really know. Like, I keep calling this a podcast. I think I've said this before. I keep calling this a podcast. I don't know what it necessarily is. You know, I call it a podcast, but really, it's just me recording myself talking. But that's basically a podcast, is it not? Realizing that I've said this exact same thing, I'm pretty sure, in a prior episode, I'm losing my mind. But yes, hi guys, welcome back to another episode. I didn't record anything last week. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. Obviously, I'm still very new to this. And I'm juggling, obviously my personal life, school, with this as well. So sometimes it can be a bit tricky. Sometimes I want to record an episode, but due to certain circumstances, I can't. Sometimes it's out of my control. Sometimes it isn't. Like sometimes when I can film something. I'm too tired and I don't, which is stupid. But I do have actual reasons to why yeah. So be patient with me, y'all, please. Especially you, Crystal, hassling me every damn day about this new episode. No, I'm joking. Bless you, love you, babes. Um, but yeah, welcome back to another episode. A lot to dive into this week because obviously haven't recorded anything in 2 weeks. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'm gonna start with something pretty, I guess, deep. I'm gonna get deep, y'all. So lock in. I have a lot to say. I just had a shower before filming this episode, and I was, contemplating in the shower if I really want to talk about this, because it's very personal and it's very present. It's something going on, happening right now. So yeah, I'm very nervous. I feel like it's funny because leading up to this, I was like, yes, I like this is what I'm going to talk about. I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I like practically planned out the entire episode in my head, and like I said everything in my head that I was going to say, and I started recording, and then just like my mind just like went. This is actually my third time recording this episode, um, and I think that's also because since I haven't recorded anything in a while, I always feel like I lose the rhythm, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, but without further ado, let's get right into it. So as of late, I have very much kind of entered this period of time, I feel like, with myself, where I want to start focusing on being myself. And what I mean by that is, um, you know, I definitely have struggled, I'd say, with being true to myself and being myself unabashedly and unapologetically. Um, you know, Especially in certain environments, I tend to not be myself in, you know, because, when I'm around my friends and stuff like that, I'm, you know, 90% of the time myself. Uh, but, sometimes due to outside factors, I tend to not be myself. And that's something that I've been wanting to stop and change. I want to get rid of that part of me, those parts of me that stop me from being myself, in certain environments around certain people. And, you know, with that said, those feelings have kind of kicked into like overdrive as of like in the last week. Because I really don't know how to put it, because it is a very personal thing, and not just from. I don't think that I ever watched this. Who gives a fuck? Jesus. But basically, so I have unfortunately been put in a situation. Well, I'm about to be put in a situation where I'm gonna be seeing someone. I'm trying to put it as vague as possible because I don't act like. Me and my friends have joked about doing an episode about this certain someone for such a long time, and it's been such a little joke that like I'm gonna do an episode and blah blah blah. But like realistically doing it, like I knew that if I did do it, like it wouldn't ever be if things that I'd say was gonna be like, because a lot of the things I'd say was just more of a joke and stuff like that. But whatever. I guess, obviously, because it's a personal part of my life, it's something that I'm not too sure about giving away, because hello, this is the internet, it's gonna be here forever. But yeah, I'm gonna be seeing someone soon, that may or may not have been have been talking, or not have been, was talking to, and obviously, like, when I found that out, me and my friends were like you would have thought that World War III started, like, when we was I can't give too much away. But when we heard about something, about someone being there, we kind of went, did she just say, oh, yeah, I think she did. Like, it's like someone had launched all the nuclear. It's like we were in the White House and someone leaked the nuclear codes and we were all running around like, like, that scene in SpongeBob where it like goes into his head and like everything's on fire and like there's all about like a little mini SpongeBob is like running around like an office. That's what it was like, bro. That's what I felt like. But anyways, that's not necessarily what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is that same day I was on the train home and I was kind of imagining and whatnot about how it's gonna be, and I started getting into this mindset that I didn't like, where, you know, I started thinking things like, okay, so before that trip, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to, blah 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 blah. And then I was other things like, okay, when I'm there, I need to act like this, and I need to make sure that I'm whatever, like nonchalant, or not nonchalant, but just like, I need to make sure I'm this, I need to make sure I'm that, and I really need to like tone myself down. And then I stopped. I was sitting on the train, and then I sat back and I stopped, and I said, wait, no, like, shut up, shut up. What do you mean? When I thought I need to tone myself down, that's when I really sat back and I was like, no. Actually, fuck you. What do you mean tone yourself down? Don't do that. And I got very, not mad at myself, but I came home and I really kind of sat with that feeling, or with those thoughts that I was having on the train. And I was like, I don't want that trip to be all about that person. In a sense, and not necessarily all about that person, more in a sense where I focus too much on how I'm portraying myself to them, how I'm being perceived, because I know that at the end of the day, I'm just gonna get mad at myself, because I'm gonna feel like because I'm gonna know that I've wasted an opportunity to have fun because I was too focused on how someone was perceiving me, when they probably weren't even perceiving me that way, and they don't give a fuck how I act. And if they do give a fuck, then that's on them, you know? So to go back to what I was saying before, I'm in this kind of period where, I want to make sure that I'm being myself, unabashedly, unapologetically being me, no matter what the circumstances. Not just being me in front of my friends, but being me at all times. Yeah, because that's something I've struggled with a lot, in the past, especially in high school. I remember I kind of had this, realization that I feel like this year I've been more myself than I ever have for a long time. Because especially in those late years of high school, I was so focused on how people perceived me, and if people liked me and accepted me, when it doesn't. Who really gives a fuck? Who cares who accepts and doesn't accept you? I like genuinely. I'm looking back at it right now, and I'm thinking about the people that I knew accepted me, and that I knew liked me, and was truly my friend for who I am. And that's all I ever like. That's truly all I ever needed. And there were so many, but I was too focused on the other bitches in the corner of the room. The other fucking cunts in the corner of the room, and like, oh, what? I shouldn't call them cunts. I shouldn't. I was too focused on what they thought of me and stuff like that. And even with this podcast, usually every time I post an episode, I put on my story, that like, hey y'all, go watch my new episode, But even with that said, I've only been doing it on my close friends. And then one day I was like, you know what? No, let me do it on my public. But even with that said, I still went into my public and was hiding people from my story that I didn't want them to see this. And truly, the only reason why I didn't want them to see this podcast is because in this podcast, I am me. I am myself. On this podcast, I am, why am I repeating myself? There's no need. But, and I think about certain people seeing me for who I am. And I'm like, no, they can't see that side of me. They can't see who I really am. They might not like that side of me. They might judge me. Who cares? Oh my god, who cares? So my goal for when I post this episode, that I'm going to post this shit on my story, and I'm not going to hide anyone from my story. And I'm going to make a promise to myself to do that. But yeah, those feelings has very much been in overdrive in the last couple of days, especially after that little train ride that I had. And on that same note, I wanted to talk about 2 songs that have been in rotation for me lately, especially some of the lyrics from those songs that truly resonate with me. So both those songs are from Tyler the Creator's album Chromacopia, and those 2 songs are the starting track and the ending track. So the starting track, Saint Chroma, and the ending track, I Hope You Find Your Way Home. And the lyrics from each of those tracks, I'll get into them and share them with you, because I very much have been, these lyrics, these lines have very much been around in my head, so I wanted to share them with you guys. So from Saint Chroma, the lyrics are, you are the light, it's not on you, it's in you, which I'm pretty sure is said by his mother in the start of the song. And then from the chorus, can you feel the light inside you? Can you feel that fire? And then another line that his mother says in the song, don't you ever stop being who you are and dimming your light for none of these motherfuckers out here. And then the line from the other song, I Hope You Find Your Way Home, there's one line, and it's the light comes from within. And I think out of all of those lines, that one is my favorite and the one that has been resonating with me the most. The light comes from within is repeated at the end of the song, and there's an interpolation, if that's the right word, of the lyrics from Thought I Was Dead. And in that song, the line is you thought I was dead, but then he interpolates or interpoles. Would it be what is it? I feel like it interpoles in songs. Okay, it's definitely not interpoles. Interpolation meaning the insertion of something of a different nature into something else. Whatever. Okay, so he inserts those lyrics into I Hope You Find Your Way Home, but changes the lyrics to the light comes from within. And yeah, every time I listen to that song, that lyric really sticks out to me because yeah, I'm just, my main focus as of late has been to make sure that I'm not dimming my light for anybody. Especially because, the main reason I'm always dimming my light is because I'm always worried about what a motherfucker in the corner thinks of me, Especially, unfortunately, men. Unfortunately, it's, a lot of the times it's men, I mean, it's everyone, but it's especially with them. Those motherfuckers. And yeah, I just, cause as I said last year, especially, not just like I think like the last 2 years, it's been such a big issue with me. And I'm sick of that, and I want to get rid of it, and that's why these lines have been resonating with me, because the light does, like, not to be corny, but the light does, it comes from within, and I'm so worried about my light being too bright for other people, so I dim it, and when I dim it, I hope that they shine a light on me of acceptance. They shower me with acceptance and stuff like that. But I shouldn't. That's not how it works. You're not bright because of other people's light. You're bright because of your light. Ooh, did I eat with that or what? Yeah. I hope I'm making sense. Jesus. But yeah, so that's something that's something I wanted to kind of get off my chest. Yeah. But anyways, to move on from that, I wanted to talk about Silent Hill 2, y'all. To completely pivot. Holy. Yo, so last episode I mentioned that I started Silent Hill 2, and oh my god, y'all, I finished that game. And I wanted to talk about some of the theories that I curated along the way. And truly, that was one of my favorite parts about playing that game, is, theorizing. My friend was also she was playing the game, or watching the game, whatever. So we were always kind of talking about the game. We're having like nightly discussions about it, and it truly was so fun. Has this been the first time I mentioned Lakalia on this podcast? I think it has been. Hi, Lakalia! Hi. Y'all bitches better be ready to hear that name, because that name is going to come out of my mouth like water. I'm telling you. I also want to get her on my podcast at some point. That's going to be really fun. But yeah, so that was one of my favorite parts about playing that game, is just theorizing and discussing, and it's true. It's such a good game, man. Who made that game? I know it's made by Konami or something. No, not Konami. Yeah, Konami. Wait, but who made that game? Who made Silent Hill 2? No, like who's the director? Like who wrote and directed? Who wrote and directed Silent Hill 2? The original video game Silent Hill 2 was directed by I don't want to butcher this name. Masashi Tsuboyama, and written by Hiroyuki Awaku. I'm so sorry if I butchered those names. The recent remake was directed by Matsus Leonard and written by Andreas. Okay, well, it's mainly, the original, I guess. Well, no, but okay, I'll give credit to both of them. But, I mean, to all four of them. But, I feel like it's the original. Actually, no, wait, I feel like I'm saying things that might come out wrong. Anyways, those people, and just the whole team that made that game, I'd say, are they're geniuses, man. The symbolism in that game, that was probably one of the best story and horror game that I've ever played. The symbolism in that game, the story, the characters, the narrative, the writing, it's all so good. The atmosphere, the atmosphere. I know that one of Silent Hill's biggest pros, but one of the things that I always talked about is its atmosphere. It has such an amazing atmosphere. Yeah, and it's not scary in a kind of like typical horror sense, where it's like, jump scares, and when you turn the corner and stuff like that, there are its fair share of jump scares, but it's psychologically scary, seeing how the characters are acting, seeing what they're going through, and and stuff like that. That's the most scariest part, I think, the psychological aspect to it. God, what an amazing story. To its core, that story is about guilt and facing your sins. So I'm pretty sure that when I started Silent Hill 2 and spoke about it, I gave a little first impression / theory of what I thought. And I thought that Silent Hill was an entity that drags people in, pulls people in, that are psychologically not there, and kind of feeds on them, feeds on their despair, their just all their negative emotions, their sins, or not sins, their guilt, depression, trauma, whatever, and I'm pretty sure to a certain degree I was right about that. I haven't really gone into too much of the lore surrounding the entire series, because I want to play those games on my own. I don't want to kind of look up, because I'm pretty sure, I'm assuming through the other games you'll, there'll be a kind of through line, and you'll be able to like piece more things together, and by knowing the lore throughout each of the games, it'll be easier to kind of know what's going on in a sense. But I'm pretty sure to its core, like Silent Hill isn't very much Silent Hill isn't typically something to understand. It's something to interpret, I believe. Maybe, as I said, that opinion may change if I play the other games, but at the moment I believe that Silent Hill is less of something to understand, but more of something to interpret. It's a piece of art, you could say. The game is a piece of art to interpret. So yeah, and so I'm gonna talk about some spoilers. So if anyone out here watching is, wanting to play that game for themselves, or is maybe interested in it, and you don't want any spoilers, don't listen to what I'm about to say. But so, as the game goes on, we meet these different characters, And I meeting these characters, I thought of my own theories about why these characters are there. I mean, they said why they were there, but I thought there was an overarching reason. I thought that maybe, to kind of recap what the game is about, it's about a man named James going into a town to find his wife who has been dead for 3 years, and he gets a letter saying, like, I'm in Silent Hill, come get me, please. And he believes that she's there even though she's dead, and goes out to save her. And you meet these characters along the way, and I thought that those characters were maybe kind of symbolic of different parts of his wife Mary. But that did change near the end of the game, and I realized that some of them, maybe not all of them, were real people. One of the characters you meet, Laura, and another character you meet is Eddie. I believe that those two characters were real. But there was the other two, Maria, who plays a big part in the story, and what's her name, Laura? I still don't know about them. I still feel like they aren't real. Maria definitely wasn't. I think she was an entity within Silent Hill. Um, and I think I was right to some aspect of that. It was an entity that posed itself as a manifestation of James's psyche, as a lot of the other creatures and monsters you have to fight throughout the game are. And she represented, obviously James's wife, because they looked alike, they had the same voice and stuff like that. And also, I feel like James's lust, because yeah, she was always trying to get with James, man. Christ, even at the end of the game, oh my lord. Um, but yeah, we find out at the end of the game that James killed his wife. James smothered her. And I remember when that scene played where he plays the tape, and we see that, I was like lost for words. Cause why? How could you do that? I remember my friend, she said that um she thought that Mary asked James to kill her because she couldn't take the pain of the sickness. Now, my interpretation was different, and I think it's because we both experienced different endings, because there are multiple endings to that game, which kind of adds even more to the whole. I believe that Silent Hill is less about understanding the story, but more interpreting it and interpreting the characters, and kind of it gives you a narrative, but it doesn't give you all the answers. It gives you like a rough narrative, not a rough narrative, but it gives you a narrative. But there's so many things that branch out. And it really just it's up to your interpretation. Which is, I feel like, is common in a lot of media. In a lot of movies, I feel like, especially in books. But in games, that's not necessarily something that you see a lot. I think, maybe I haven't played enough games to have seen that, and maybe it is in other parts, in other games. But trust me, I played a lot of games, and I plan to do a whole episode on games. I truly do, because I have a lot to say about games and what they mean to me, because they mean a lot to me. So I'm gonna get in some really nerdy territory whenever I do that episode. Maybe I'll do that one next. But yeah, we both witnessed different endings, and my ending was, James kills Maria, that the creature, the monster that Maria turns into, after she poses as Mary and tries to get James to get with her and leave with her, stay with her, be with her, whatever. And he gets back to his car, and he kind of says to himself, he has this little monologue within himself, and then he says, I know that he speaks to Mary, and he says, I know that you would have wanted me to live for other people, but I just can't. And he kills himself. He drives into a lake, into a body of water. He looks back in that ending. He looks to the backseat of the car as he's talking to Mary, which I think insinuates that Mary's body was in the back of the car, which is crazy. What do you mean your dead wife is decomposing in the back of the car? You are sick. You're sick. But yeah, I think it was also very heavily implied in the game that James was an alcoholic. James had some substance abuse. And okay, so let me go through how I perceive the overarching story and what I believe happened. Okay, so when James says that Mary got sick 3 years ago and died 3 years ago, I don't think that she died of the sickness 3 years ago. I think she was diagnosed with the sickness 3 years ago, but in his head, that's kind of when she died, because that's when the sickness took over and kind of changed her and his life forever. And we find out that they, obviously the sickness was hard on the both of them, but for Mary, his wife, she became very distraught, and she got into a lot of fights with James, and she was, she tell him to leave me alone, go away, just let me be, I'm gonna die anyways, and stuff like that. But then no, come back, please support me, and obviously for James, if if anyone you love is diagnosed with a terminal illness, it's gonna be very hard, and I think he turned to substance abuse and alcoholism. And because he's a sick fucking man, and all men are pigs, he wanted to get down and dirty, but he couldn't, because his wife was dead and sick in bed. So I think that led to him having some sexual tendencies with other women. And I think he was getting with, he'd go out and party and to kind of, that's how he'd cope with his wife's, sickness that was killing her. He'd go out and drink and then get with women. And I think that to me, that was portrayed by the monsters in the game. Because the monsters are, I found this out through through someone else. And, because after the game finished, I wanted to see other people's views and thoughts, and it's, one of my favorite things to do, and I saw that, each of the monsters in that game is a manifestation created by Silent Hill using the psyche of, the person's well-being and thoughts and stuff like that. And a lot of the monsters in that game, if not all of them, had a lot of female parts to them. A lot of them was very feminine. The first monster you meet, I want to see what these monsters are called, because I know there's names for them. Okay, so the first monster you encounter is the lying figure. Is that what they're called? The lying figure? Okay, so I'm gonna give you a rundown of each of these monsters. So the lying figure are humanoid monsters appearing in Silent Hill 2. It is the first creature that James Sunderland encounters in his journey through Silent Hill. They are a physical manifestation of the memory of his... Oh, interesting! They are a physical manifestation of the memory of his sick wife on her deathbed and his internal suffering, taking the appearance of a hospital patient writhing in agony. See? I kind of had that in my head, because me and my friend talked about this. I'm pretty sure how, the monster was always vomiting and looked very sickly. So I thought that was a manifestation of James's kind of, interesting. Wait, kind of, manifestation of Mary's sickness. Creature designer Masahiro Ito was inspired by BDSM fashion and the movements of a co-worker in a hoodie when creating the monster. They were adapted as the armless man, blah blah blah. Okay, that's interesting. The next, I'm gonna try and edit this video and have like a little photo of each of the monsters come up next to me. If I do or don't do that, I guess you'll know. The next creature, the mannequins. Mannequins are creatures appearing in Silent Hill 2. They are a manifestation of James Sunderland's sexuality and memories of his wife's hospitalization before her death. Creature designer Masahiro Ito took inspiration from Japanese folklore when developing the figure. Now the next one, the Bubblehead Nurse. Bubblehead nurses are monsters appearing in Silent Hill 2. And they are a manifestation of James Sunderland's subconsciousness. They were first encountered when James Sunderland entered Brookhaven Hospital after coming to Silent Hill 2 in search of his deceased wife. They can be seen both in the hospital. Okay, whatever. So, with those monsters, those are like the main monsters you kind of encounter along the way. And as I said, they all have very much female, qualities to them. And apart from all of that, which I've just said, I also believed that they all kind of represented the objectification of women through James's mind. He was beating these monsters senseless with a metal pipe and stuff like that. And especially with the nurses, I'm pretty sure that I saw that the what's it called? The person that made these monsters said that it wasn't supposed to represent that, but I still think it's okay to interpret it. But I guess that kind of plays into the term author's death, which, if you don't know what that is, it's when an author or someone creates something with a specific meaning, but it becomes kind of bastardized and people put their own meanings onto it. And I feel like that can be a good or a bad thing, because it can add so much more, but it could also sometimes can twist the narrative and be for the worse. But whatever. Yeah, that's how I interpreted it. In what I was trying to say before is that the nurses, especially, their faces are covered up, and they have no sense of being. It's more just like their body, if that makes sense. And yeah, and a lot of the monsters are very grotesque and very, like, I don't know how to put it, but like sexual. Like, there's this one monster where she has lips on that area. Let me actually look at that. What was that called? And what does it say about that? The flesh lip. Okay, let me see what it says about the flesh lip, y'all. Do y'all care? I don't care. Okay, Flesh Lip is a monster appearing in Silent Hill 2. It is a manifestation of James Sunderland's subconscious thoughts, representing the memory of his wife in her sickbed. No, I didn't mean to go back. Oh, that's about to piss me off. Sorry, y'all. Okay, as I was saying, creature designer Masahiro Ito created the design and animations, taking inspiration from Isamu Noguchi statue Death, and the photographed Man with No Legs. Since its debut, Flesh Lip has appeared in the 2012. Okay, whatever. Appearance and symbolism. Flesh Lip is a creature bound to a grid-like lattice with a mouth located on its abdomen. That's what I was talking about. Encountered in a hospital, it represents James's memory of Mary in her sickbed. Its flesh is reminiscent of broken skin similar to Mary's disease. The lattice evokes a bed frame, and the imagery of Misty Day remains of the Judgment, a painting that resonated with James during their vacation to Silent Hill. Mouth is a reoccurring motif in the creature design. Mary verbally abused James during her illness, so the mouths on the creature represents her inner turmoil and verbal attacks. None of the monsters in Silent Hill 2 have mouths until Flesh Lip appears. after which every creature introduced has a mouth. Fleshlip is a more abstract representation of the vision of Mary that James confronts in the game's climax. She transforms into a sickly creature that hangs upside down from a similar lattice. James knows that he should remember killing her, but actively suppresses the memory in Brookhaven Hospital. That's crazy. That is so cool. That's what I mean, y'all. The whole team behind this game is just that geniuses. I never realized that each of the monsters have a mouth that appear on them only after you come across this monster. That is so cool. Oh my god, how long have I been recording? Because I want to get into this more. You know what? We're going to go through... Oh, no. Next up is Pyramid Head. His symbolism. Let me get into that. First of all, what I thought is that Pyramid Head was a representation of James's guilt and self-loathing. And that's why he was after, like all the monsters, Pyramid Head specifically was kind of after James and wanted to execute him. And I think that kind of represents maybe the part of James' self that was like, it's wrong that I killed my wife and I deserve death. And that's what Pyramid Head represents. Shut up. Can you all hear that loud music? Pissing me off. That would be my mum. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break. Okay, y'all, I'm back. I took a quick little break. Where was I? I think I was talking about Pyramid Head. How, yeah, I feel like he was a representation of James's self-loathing, aside from his guilt. Now let's see what SilentHill.fandom.com wiki has to say about. About an earthquake? That was terrifying. That's tea. That's actually so tea. I got an earthquake on camera. Period. Yes, that better go viral. Oh, fuck, I should have been putting lipstick on my face. Wait, let me actually go check on my family, like my little brothers, to make sure that they're okay. Fuck. I just took a break and I'm taking another one. Actually, nah, go check soon. Okay, let's see what they have to say about Pyramid Head. Okay, red pyramid thing. What? More colloquially known as Pyramid Head, is a humanoid monster in the Silent Hill franchise, first appearing in Silent Hill 2. His red helmet and butcher's attire echo the executioners of the town's past, who worship the Angel of Rebirth, Valtiel. What the hell? What is... See, I don't know about any of this. Because I probably haven't played the other games. He is a manifestation of James Sunderland's guilt and desire for punishment, existing to keep him human and help him remember his past actions. The monster wields the Great Knife and the Great Spear, instruments of James's inner torment. By the end of the game, a second Pyramid Head manifests. Despite criticism from Mashiro Ito and Tom Hullett, the character was reimagined in Silent Hill Homecoming as the Boogeyman, aka the Shadowed One. Okay, I don't care. Since its creation, Pyramid Head has become one of the most well-known and iconic. Okay, well, once again, I don't care. I more wanted to look at the symbolism of him. Oh, this is a quote from the creature designer himself. I designed Pyramid Head in 1999 after finishing working on the first Silent Hill. I was sure that this character would grab the hearts of the people back then, but never thought that some makers would keep releasing the status quarter a century from them. I do understand why it's a bit iffy when he shows up in other media, because as I said, each monster is supposed to represent, it's supposed to symbolize, it's a manifestation of each character's psyche, something from their mind, So when it does show up in other things, like other games for other characters, I understand why it's like, well, that's not the point of him, babes, But yeah. Anyways, God, so this has been a crazy episode. What the hell? There was an earthquake. Um, this episode's been all over the place. Anyways, I actually think I'm gonna leave it there because yeah, I want to talk more about Silent Hill honestly, but this episode's been going on for a while, and my mind is like completely all over the place, and I want an episode where I focus on this more. I don't know if I'll do a whole episode on this, or I'll revisit it and do some more research because it's fun and there's so much stuff that I don't know about the lore. And as I said, I don't know if I actually want to do deep dives in the lore because I want to play the other games. And I know that they're remaking Silent Hill. I do know at some point play Silent Hill F. Um, but yeah, I think that's gonna do it for that episode, team. Thanks you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe, share with your friends, and emphasis on the share with your friends, y'all. Please, please, I need more viewers. Thank you, thank you. But yeah, hope you all have a good rest of your day or night. And goodbye, y'all.